I'm Kelsey Hartzell, working on behalf of FemTechNet's keyword project, and my keyword is body. I'm going to go about this keyword by looking at the female body, and more specifically how the media has an effect on how women view themselves. So the definition of body is the entire structure of an organism. Knowing this, why do we seem to look at the body as just a torso area? There is much more than that, and there is much more to what makes the body beautiful. To put it simply, we are seeing that within the American culture, being thin is the ideal beauty. One of the major reasons as to why this is because how media portrays women and their bodies. Most of the time, the women in television and movies have body types that are unattainable for most women. It has been said that most women on television are considered to be below the healthy body weight. Since the media is all around us, no matter where we turn, the image of being incredibly thin is now being thought of as beautiful. I think it's interesting to actually take a look back on our history to see how body images have changed. So during the 1800s, which was the Victorian era, the ideal body type for a woman was plump and full-figured. The reason for this was because you had money and you were rich, and that means you could afford food. So if your body was a little bit bigger, it was considered a good thing because you had the wealth and you were upper class. And then by the start of the 1900s, becoming thin was getting a little bit more fashionable, and physicians at this point started to look to see the body weight as more of a science, and that's when the calories actually started to become more apparent. By the 1920s, this is when flappers started to come into play, and at this point in time, the flapper would actually bind her breast down to achieve a washboard look. And then it was then after World War I where body fat was actually started to be seen as a sign of self-indulgence. Now we're in the 1950s, and this was when women with a really thin waist would come into play, and then they had a larger breast. And then we had the 60s and 70s, and this is where you really wanted to be slender, and this was actually an important indicator of physical attractiveness. There was an overall increase in the importance of body shape and weight loss, and this was this was because of the ratings of magazines that were really popular, and they started using less curvaceous models and replacing them with thinner women. There was more need of exercising, and dieting just wasn't enough. And actually we can look at this because we've seen all the horrible 80 workouts videos from the past. And now we're in the 1990s, which a lot of us are more comfortable with and more familiar with, and this is also known as the Baywatch era. And this is where we have beautiful women, really thin, long hair, extremely small waist, and large bust. And then from this point on is when men and women saw themselves that the smaller you were, the more beautiful you were. So today, like stated earlier, thin is in, but now there are many different options on how to get thin, not from just working out or dieting. There are many different options, such as medical procedures that allow body fat to just basically disappear. Females of all ages seem to be particularly vulnerable to this area. The body dissatisfaction of women is really all around us, and there's lots of literature on it. If you even go to your academic sources, there's lots of articles on that. But body dissatisfaction is a disorder, and then it leads to eating disorders, and it's really common within the adolescents and college females. So body image becomes a major issue really throughout your puberty years. And not surprisingly, like I said, the eating disorders really come into play, and research has shown that about 2/3 of adolescent females report dieting at some point. So like I said, images in the media today really project an unrealistic and even dangerous standard for what beauty is, because we have all these young children out there that they say they're big or they're fat, and they're actually like a size 2, which most women want to be, but they see themselves as fat because they're not as thin as what they see on TV. So thinness is the ideal, and it's what is expected for women, to be attractive. That's what's considered to be attractive for women. So we see this in advertisements, television, and definitely in music videos of what the ideal woman is. And now we see that as tall, light, thin, very elongated body. But basically the media is littered with these images of females who fulfill these unrealistic standards. And if you think about it, only a very small percentage of women in the Western countries actually fit within those beautiful lines. The idea for such a standard of perfection, like I said, is dangerous. Many of the models shown on television, advertising, and other forms of popular media are approximately 20 cents below the average body weight. So when women see this is where an anorexia occurs. So women who reported greater exposure to television program during the adolescent years were actually more likely to experience high levels of body image disturbances than females that did not report watching those television and music videos. So with the music videos that are really popular, especially within the 1990s, early 2000s, the women that were watching those videos see these representations of what our culture considers beautiful. And it really just, like I said, really affects the adolescent college females. So the mass media depiction of women and what it portrays as the standard of beauty, basically, like I said, is unrealistic and unattainable for the majority of women's societies. Models just show a very small percentage of what the actual true body type is, and not most women can do that. So what we need to remember is that we decide what beauty is and not the media. This is Kelsey Hartzell from TechNet, and I'll talk to you soon.